Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have been leaving comments, particularly on my recent videos. I really do appreciate it because I know it takes quite a lot of courage to share the vulnerabilities around your voice and what's kind of coming up for you. So thank you so much, but please do keep sharing because I do think it helps other people as well to feel less alone. And of course, please do subscribe if you haven't yet and like my videos if you enjoy them as well. Give me a thumbs up. So before I get started on today's topic, you might be able to hear in my voice, it's a little bit croaky. I haven't been well over the last few days. I am coming out of this now, but there is a residual croak on my voice. So hopefully you might enjoy my voice a little bit croaky, but if you don't, then next week's video, it should all be back to normal. So today's video is really important if you are really serious about stepping out in your full, true, powerful, authentic self as a speaker. And a lot of my clients are in leadership roles, they're in very senior executive positions, and they might manage teams, and they're really wanting to persuade, to motivate, to lead, to inspire people, and to really make a big impact. And one of the things that always comes up, particularly when I work with private clients, is this real resistance to listening back to themselves speaking. The amount of times I will say to someone, have you listened to yourself? Did you listen to that you sent me? So they might send me something to listen to, but they don't listen to it. And also just as part of my coaching, I will always record the session. And very often people don't even download them because they fear listening to the session. And I think in my training around voice, both as a teacher and a singer, one of the things that I was taught early on was to listen back to all your sessions. So if ever I had a session with a coach or a teacher, I would listen back to it and I would take notes and I would listen to my voice. I would listen to what they're hearing. So it's really important. And I would argue if you want to become masterful and really skilled at anything, that's what you have to do. And it doesn't actually matter what field we're in, whether it's sport or voice or acting or dancing or anything. Actually, anyone that's really, really skilled and masterful at what they do, I guarantee will record themselves, watch themselves, listen to themselves, because it's the only way to learn. So I want to give you a few reasons why I think this is so important and how you're really selling yourself short if you don't do this. Now, I get that it's uncomfortable. It's a real trigger for the ego. The ego doesn't like this. The ego is like, do I really sound like that? But you have to get over that kind of ego part of yourself that's very judgmental and critical, and see this as a tool for growth. See this as a tool for just building awareness and an understanding of your voice, because your voice never lies. It will tell you exactly what's going on. As I say, a lot of it's unconscious. So it will always tell you. You can hear in people's voices exactly what they're thinking. And we can hear in people's voices when the words are saying one thing and the voice is saying something else. There's this disconnect. So the voice will never lie. And if you're willing to use it as a tool for growth and transformation, it is one of the greatest tools I think that there is. So I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I think it's so important to really start to listen back. Whether it's a meeting you've been in or a presentation and someone sends you a video, or whether you actually deliberately video yourself practicing a speech, practicing reading something, or whether you're just doing some exercises and you want to listen back or watch them back. So, so important. So number 1 is what you hear in your head is not what anyone else hears. And I say this to people all the time. And I think that they hear the words, but they still don't really do anything with that information. So the only way you truly know how your voice comes across is to listen to it through a recording. And this isn't putting any effects on the microphone or anything. This is just very basic recording, even just into your phone. Just listen to yourself speak and start to hear the quality of your voice, the tone of your voice, the color, the timbre in your voice. Just start to pay attention to all of that. This isn't about criticizing, judging, berating yourself. This is about information. This is about, okay, this is what people are hearing. Because if you're going purely by what you hear in your head, it is a terrible gauge for coming to conclusions and therefore how to move forward with your voice. Now, I get that this is uncomfortable. The ego does not like this. The ego is very protective of our voice for reasons I talk about all the time in other videos, because the way we use our voice is really ultimately a way of protecting ourselves when we're not conscious of it. So I get that it's not going to be very comfortable, but seriously, if you want to make a bigger impact, you have to start listening to videos, recordings, audios, any opportunity you get, listen back to your voice. And I should say, I listen to myself all the time, which might sound a bit weird, but I do, because I hear stuff in my voice all the time. And actually on that subject, last week's video I recorded and I listened back and I was like, wow, your voice has like dropped like a tone in pitch. And I knew I was getting sick because my voice pitch had dropped. My voice is never normally that low. And I was just like, okay, there's something going on here, Anuska. You're definitely getting sick. So it can be a very interesting gauge. Number two, the ego's not going to like this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Would you want to listen to you speak for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or whatever? It's so interesting because we know sometimes that our voice isn't very interesting to listen to, but yet we're not really willing to do anything about it. It's like, oh, well, it's just a training. It's just a presentation. My staff are used to me sounding boring. So whatever, they'll just get used to it. They'll just have to put up with it because this is just my voice. But it isn't really your voice. And this is the whole point of my work. It's your natural voice is expressive. Your natural voice is open and free and powerful, apart from when you're sick. And so if it's not, then you know that there's something you can absolutely do about it, regardless of accent, regardless of your native language. A voice works the same. Doesn't matter what language you speak or what accent you have. It's all the same. So be really honest. Listen back. Would I want to listen to me speak? And if I don't want to listen to me speak, well, why should I subject other people to this? I need to then take responsibility and ownership for actually opening my voice up, becoming more expressive, becoming more engaging, because it's within you. We're not creating a persona. You're normally kind of boring to listen to, monotone, unexpressive, and now we're going to do the opposite. This is your natural, true voice. It's just we've normally created all these barriers and blocks to this voice. So I want you to really get that this is actually your true voice. So be really honest with yourself. Would I want to listen to me? And that might be a little bit hard to listen to. Number three, and this is a really big one, is, again, this is why you have to record yourself. So what you perceive in your head to be too loud, too much, too over the top, too expressive, too dynamic, too enthusiastic, actually, you may find when you listen back, actually, that felt really over the top in my head. But actually, when I listen back, it just sounds really engaging. And again, this is why we cannot trust what we hear in our head, because our mind is going to put all of these filters and all of these conclusions and beliefs and layer it on top of it. So we have to take a step back, because if you're not used to being expressive and then you suddenly start being expressive and practicing, varying your pitch and varying your pace and varying your volume, that's probably going to sound very over the top to you in your head. But when you listen back, you're like, oh, that actually sounds really interesting. So that's why it's really, really important as well. And I've had this so many times with clients where I might give them the cue for various reasons. I want you to say this with a little bit of aggression in your voice. And there's a lot of resistance usually that comes up for people. Oh, I don't want to sound aggressive. I'm like, you're not going to sound aggressive, but just trust me, go towards an aggressive voice. And actually, when they listen back, they're like, oh, it didn't actually sound aggressive at all. It just sounds strong. It just sounds powerful. So the mind comes to a lot of conclusions about things. So we have to get out of our head and listen more objectively, I know it's going to be very difficult still, but it's going to be easier to be objective when you're listening to a recording than when you're trying to listen to yourself in the moment. So number 4 is, unless you're working with a coach or you have someone that you really trust, it's unlikely that anyone is going to be that honest with you. We're all scared of kind of upsetting people and ruffling feathers. And most of the time, particularly if you're in a position of leadership, position of authority, you've got a team of people underneath you, you run a company, people aren't going to necessarily want to upset you. They're going to be worried about losing their job, etc., etc. So if they find you really boring to listen to, or they can't follow you, or they can't understand you, they're probably not going to say anything. And they're going to kind of hope that maybe one day someone will tell you, or something will happen and you'll hear your voice and you'll be like, oh my God, is that what my team have to put up with? And I actually had this conversation. I mean, I have this all the time with people, but a conversation not that long ago with someone who literally said this to me. He said, I know my team will never be that honest with me. And that's why I'm coming to you, because I want an honest opinion. I want honest feedback on what you're hearing and how I come across, because most people will never be that honest. They're too worried about losing their job or ruffling feathers or missing out on a promotional opportunity. They don't want to upset you. And we do take our voice very personally. And I totally get that. You know, it's very much tied to our identity, which is also why when we try and change vocal habits, it can be very, very painful for us, not physically, but emotionally very painful, because we have got very, very comfortable, maybe uncomfortably comfortable with the way we speak. And in some way, it's protecting us and serving us. So just to know, if you are very senior within an organization, particularly, or you have a lot of people relying on you underneath you, it's unlikely anyone is going to be that honest. And another thing that comes from this, when people will say, well, I wouldn't tell this person that they don't sound expressive, or they sound boring, or their voice is monotone, because they're not going to know what to do with that information. I'm just going to then make them feel really insecure, and now they don't know how to move forward. And sadly, and I've heard this from many people within companies, within organizations, public speaking, voice training is often something you're just expected to know. Just get on with it. Just go and stand on that stage and deliver that amazing keynote. People are often not given the resources to actually step into their powerful voice, step into their true self on stage. And so if you're not given those resources, then what am I doing with that feedback? So this is where I think we have to take personal responsibility and start to see that our voice is really such a powerful tool, both in our personal and our professional life. And actually, maybe we don't leave it up to the business to fund our voice coaching, that we see this as an investment in ourselves, in our future career and business opportunities, but also in our personal life. I mean, we literally use our voice in everything we do, in every interaction, apart from when we're asleep. And even some of us, like myself, speak in their sleep. So I don't think my voice ever has a break, to be honest. So it really, really is so important that we start to take ownership for this and start to see it as important as working with a business coach, because actually your voice can make you money. And one of the biggest objections I will have from people is around money. Oh, I don't have the money. I can't afford it. It's not the right time. I need to save up, blah, blah, blah. But you can't afford not to work on your voice, because it's literally hindering you from taking bigger opportunities, making more money, asking for a raise, going for that promotion, pitching to investors to get more money. It really is hindering you. So really you have to see your voice as this incredible tool for actually allowing you to flourish and thrive in your business and career and your personal life. So if this is of interest, if you know that your voice is holding you back, maybe you've had some feedback, maybe you have listened to a recording, maybe you've been brave enough to listen to a recording and you're like, oh my God, I sound so boring. I wouldn't want to listen to myself. But you don't know how to move forward, because it is difficult. I'm not going to lie. I've worked with probably hundreds of voice teachers over the years by now, and I couldn't have the awareness I have of my voice without that feedback myself, and I've got an intimate knowledge of my voice now, then I would love to talk to you. And you can either book a 30-minute voice discovery call, which is more of a sort of conversation, insight into your voice, what I'm hearing, how I suggest you move forward. You don't have to work with me, but it's more of an insight call. If you actually want a coaching call to actually experience what I can do for you, how I can help you awaken to your voice and start to step into the potential, then book the Reclaim Your Voice session. This is a 1-hour private session. All the links are below. And I would love to help you, because really your voice is so important. And the more you step into the power and potential in your voice, the more you'll find you're going to take bigger opportunities. You're going to put yourself out there in bigger ways, and you're going to make more money. You'll make the money back. So don't let that be an excuse that your ego uses to stop you moving forward. So thank you so much. I hope this has been helpful. Again, please leave me any comments below, and I'll see you next week.